April 2016 begins with a quiet morning, shattered by a headline that detonates like a political bomb. Iceland's Prime Minister stares at his own name tied to an offshore stash he hoped would never surface. By noon, the streets outside his office transform into a storm of outrage. The fury swelled, leading to mass protests and egg-throwing. Within 72 hours, the Prime Minister stepped down, the first domino to fall in a chain reaction none of the world's elites saw coming. The shockwaves spread fast across the globe. Britain's Prime Minister was cornered on live television, explaining a family fortune rooted through offshore channels. In Moscow, the trail led to a trusted friend of Vladimir Putin, revealing billions in transactions. Beijing's censors scrambled as relatives of powerful Communist Party leaders were named. The global elite entered panic mode as one truth became impossible to ignore. A silent weapon had been unleashed. This weapon was 11.5 million files from a Panamanian law firm. It all began with a midnight message to a German reporter. Interested in data? That single line, sent by an anonymous source using the alias John Doe, ignited a fire aimed at the world's most powerful. The first sample arrived. 47 documents, including passport scans and internal emails. Obermeyer read through wire authorizations funneling hundreds of thousands through shell companies. Another file revealed an oligarch's power of attorney. A third showed backdated incorporation papers. Every page confirmed the same chilling pattern. The firm wasn't selling services. It was selling invisibility. By dawn, the data reached gigabytes. By Monday, it was a torrent. The data counter soon exceeded 3 terabytes. Obermeyer's hard drive buckled, forcing him to use secure servers at his newspaper. The final transfer totaled 11.5 million documents spanning nearly 4 decades. The scale dwarfed WikiLeaks by a factor of 8. Within these files lay shell companies, hidden owners, and financial networks built to disappear wealth from accountability. Scrolling through the endless client list, Obermeyer saw 12,000 companies created in a single year. Names from Samoa signed paperwork for corporations they'd never heard of. Accounts opened in Geneva, vanished in Singapore, and reappeared in the Seychelles. The memos described secrecy with a disturbing familiarity. One note read, "We cannot continue to put our necks on the line for someone who is obviously a crook," yet the transaction proceeded. Obermeyer realized no single reporter could verify a leak of this size. No newsroom possessed the manpower or reach to validate every hidden trail. He knew he needed an army. Recruiting one meant trusting hundreds of strangers with material dangerous enough to topple governments. A single premature leak could let the powerful bury evidence. John Doe's warning echoed through every decision. "My life is in danger." Obermeyer drafted an encrypted message to Marina Walker at the International Consortium of Investigative Journalists, ICIJ. He told her he possessed multiple terabytes requiring immediate secure transfer. The core question remained: what kind of person risks everything for strangers they'll never meet? Within days, Walker assembled the largest collaboration journalism had ever seen. Hundreds of reporters from 76 countries. They signed non-disclosure agreements and joined encrypted channels. Teams formed from Iceland to Argentina, unified under one rule: no information leaves the group until publication day. Editors were excluded. Governments were kept blind. The fear wasn't paranoia, it was survival. A premature leak could trigger shutdowns, subpoenas, or raids, giving the powerful time to destroy evidence and silent sources. The consortium adopted the operational discipline of a covert cell. PGP encryption protected every message. Server access was logged. Reporters used coded terms instead of target names. They assumed foreign intelligence services might attempt to breach their communications. Millions of documents arrived with no index, labels, or structure ledgers in German, emails in Spanish. The text was sometimes unreadable, buried in scanned PDFs. The team had to build their own search engine from scratch before any investigation could begin. ICIJ editors created scripts to extract names, cross-match signatures, and flag suspicious transfers. One script returned over 40,000 entities tied to politically exposed individuals. Reporters awoke to alerts linking influential figures to offshore structures designed to obscure wealth. Patterns surfaced. Shell companies rarely existed alone, forming chains across continents. Ownership was traced through multiple jurisdictions, connecting British Virgin Island shells to Panamanian trusts, exposing webs of hidden financial machinery. Every discovery fueled another. Teams found offshore entities tied to Argentine officials, Icelandic bank creditors, Russian oligarchs, and Chinese leadership relatives. A shocking thread emerged involving Sergei Roldagin, Putin's closest friend, connected to billions in flows maintained in absolute secrecy. Another cluster revealed companies linked to Bashar al-Assad's cousins, used to sustain influence. Leaked emails showed shells funding weapons deals involving militant groups. Across the documents, a parallel map of global power took shape, unregulated, unmonitored, and hidden behind legal facades. The investigation dragged on for months. Each claim required iron-proof verification. A single error could collapse the project. Reporters cross-checked signatures, corporate registry scans, and confirmed transfers with leaked SWIFT codes. By January 2016, hundreds of investigative dossiers were complete. Newsrooms prepared stories, but held them in silence. Only one strategy could protect the truth: simultaneous release. No country could suppress the investigation if dozens published together. The world had to be confronted all at once. The countdown began. The investigation widened as journalists traced hidden servers and encrypted chat logs, revealing a ghost network built from old forums and private IRC rooms. This global ecosystem treated anonymity as both a shield and a weapon. Authorities struggled to infiltrate the group. Entry points collapsed under decoy packets. The misdirection was deliberate, funneling investigators into dead ends. Every breadcrumb was placed by someone who understood law enforcement strategy. Inside hacker circles, whispers spread about a mastermind who vanished after a major breach years earlier. His screen name created fear whenever it resurfaced. Victims varied wildly: banks, cloud storage, gaming studios. The pattern wasn't profit but disruption, stress-testing society's digital backbone. Motives remained scattered. Analysts realized the group was mapping responses timelines, protocols, a reconnaissance disguised as chaos. They weren't stealing secrets, but studying reactions. The terrifying conclusion was that someone was preparing a larger strike, requiring intimate knowledge of how the world would scramble when digital systems failed. A breakthrough came when an analyst spotted a repeated variable, a signature from an older generation of hackers who treated code like poetry. The signature narrowed the suspect pool to a handful of legends who had disappeared from public view. One name stood out: an early 2000s prodigy. He had vanished after infiltrating a major intelligence contractor. His return was less a comeback and more unfinished business spanning decades. Tracing his digital footprints was impossible. He left none. Investigators followed the damage pattern, precision masked as randomness. The prodigy had once claimed that true power was in the capability to stop the world for a single hour. Now his words felt like a frightening blueprint. He believed systems failed because humans trusted them too much, seeing blind trust as the ultimate vulnerability no firewall could patch. Leaked hacker messages revealed internal fractures. Some members were uneasy with the plan. Others were fanatics willing to bring global networks to their knees. Investigators intercepted fragments of a countdown embedded in malware across industries. These dormant triggers suggested a coordinated digital detonation of catastrophic speed. Cybersecurity specialists scrambled, realizing the team didn't exploit vulnerabilities, they created ones, embedding weaknesses into trusted updates and patches. The threat wasn't outside. It was inside the foundations of the systems. A whistleblower finally reached out, driven by panic, confirming the countdown had accelerated. The triggering event was approaching, and no kill switch would be fast enough. He claimed the prodigy was seeking truth, forcing society to confront fragile technology. Global agencies formed a coalition, pooling resources against an enemy who wanted to expose, not conquer. His motivation made him difficult to predict. As intelligence units closed in, they realized the prodigy was always watching. He refined his timing based on their desperate attempts to counter him. The final push led to his control hub, but accessing it required bypassing his most personal encryption. The key was not numeric, but behavioral. Analysts had to predict his thought process, becoming a digital reflection of him. The countdown ticked toward zero. Systems flickered worldwide. With seconds remaining, analysts replicated his command sequence perfectly, hijacking the trigger mechanism and freezing it mid-execution. The global network exhaled. The prodigy vanished again, identity unrecovered, motive still debated. Digital forensics found secondary scripts experiments testing disruption that he never activated. His escape felt intentional, leaving a void rather than a signature. Private firms reported a surge in anonymous bug bounty submissions, elegant exploits handed over for free. It was as if he was patching the vulnerabilities he once exploited, recalibrating. He was designing a new map of digital stability, fixing only what he deemed worthy. His presence existed as anomalies, latency spikes, and signature keystrokes, like tracking a ghost through ripples in the air. His silence was more threatening than noise. Investigators found his old identities, usernames from the early internet, were being updated, reshaping his digital past as if rewriting his origin story. Then an anomaly appeared in an academic server, a new paper detailing an attack chain similar to his probes, planted to misdirect attribution. But cryptographers decoded the margins, a message. He was acknowledging the chase, signaling the game wasn't over. He was inviting them to keep up. High-level officials released a vague statement about coordinated cybersecurity improvements. Behind the scenes, global powers increased surveillance, desperate to catch his next move. Late one night, a power grid in South America flickered. No breach occurred, but diagnostic logs contained a single line of code matching the prodigy's stylus signature. Some saw it as a threat, others, a test. One analyst argued it was a calibration, checking if global defenses installed after his countdown were strong enough. Cyberpsychologists warned against treating him like a criminal. He behaved like a researcher with dangerous methodology. If their assumptions were wrong, his next experiment could be catastrophic. Rumors emerged he was requesting datasets no one cared about, outdated firmware, abandoned router schematics, studying the digital fossils of the early internet. He was searching for old doors the world had forgotten to lock. A breakthrough came from a telecom provider reporting traffic hitting a server unused in 14 years. Teams isolated the node, but the server displayed, "Good, you're learning to look backward." He was hiding in forgotten infrastructure, old systems that weren't monitored or patched. He had found sanctuary in the ruins of the early web. Governments rushed to audit obsolete networks, a labyrinth too vast to secure overnight. He had turned the world's past into his strongest weapon. The audits revealed a new pattern. He was consolidating activity into a single region. He seemed to be preparing a hub for something larger, reconstruction. Deep within the abandoned servers, analysts found code designed to simulate alternative versions of systems. His blueprint was for a parallel digital world, built from scraps, faster, cleaner, less vulnerable. His designs emphasized minimalism and trustless security models. The frightening part was his solitary construction. The world debated if this architecture was a replacement or a warning. He froze the construction mid-development. It felt like a teacher pausing. He had shown them the path, waiting to see if they understood the lesson. A week later, he submitted a diagram of vulnerabilities. It was a gift disguised as a warning. Agencies reluctantly implemented his fixes while publicly denying any connection, forced to improve under his silent guidance. One final message surfaced: you're not defending systems. You're defending assumptions. If those fall, everything else follows. Security was a philosophy first. Nations accelerated modernization, sharing research openly, terrified of ignoring his insights. He had become the invisible architect of the world's digital defenses. He remained uncaptured. His access trails ended in systems no longer connected, as if he had simply stepped away. He was part myth, part menace, part reluctant guardian. His final fingerprint was improvement. Somewhere in the forgotten corners of the digital world, he was still out there, measuring whether humanity had learned to secure the future it built.